What are some other examples, Alex, of some art or design that has, kind of really popped or made it to the screen?
So I'm going to talk about Peter Pan. As I was starting to say, we are lucky when one of the movies we work on does well commercially or turns out to be something we like. And sometimes, a lot of the time, none of us get famous things that we can point to, and that's okay. One of the films that I really enjoyed working on the most at ILM, and that I was really pleased with the final film, but that didn't do very well commercially, was Peter Pan. This was a live-action version of the classic story, directed by a wonderful Australian director, P.J. Hogan, who had not done anything like this before. He had done, I believe, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, if I'm remembering that correctly. He had a couple of successes and an indie film or two. And he decided he wanted to do finally an authentic treatment of the original story of Peter Pan as a live action film. And this was not to be confused with the version that Spielberg had done years earlier called Hook, starring Robin Williams, which is also a beloved film. Anyway, from an effect point of view, I wanted to show you just a couple of examples from the castle, Captain Hook's castle in Peter Pan, which was a part of the film that I really had a lot of fun working on. And it had some of these similar kinds of things going on with a set they were building there and some design work that we were doing here for some of the extensions. This is one of those weird situations where even though we were an effects company, we were asked to contribute early visual ideas for something that really was mostly going to be a physical set that we wouldn't even build as a miniature in this case. We did a couple of matte painting extensions, but really it was almost all helping out their art department. And because we already had this process going with the director, he liked the designs that I had done for the castle. And so we kind of ended up building on that. And a lot of this concept art I'm going to show you ended up being used more by them in Australia on the set than by us at ILM. But it was still valuable.
That's cool.
So this was about castles, old crumbled English castles. And so here I start off getting lots and lots of photos like this, just like looking at the real thing, looking at historical castles, ruins of castles. And I start drawing. And as an example of just how far the process goes and how many times around and around you need to go to get there with the director, you have to have a lot of patience. And all the drawings you do on the way to that final one, you might love some of them, but gotta, again, we ask this impossible bargain of our artists and creatives in this business, right? We ask them to show up and bring all of their artistic passion, as we've been talking about, which is heavily, intertwined with their egos and self-esteem. And we ask them to show up and bring that passion and bring that energy and bring their heart and soul. And then we also ask them to, at any moment, just set it all aside, be willing to see your babies, like you said, shredded, thrown out, just without even a thought. Rudely, even. Rudely. You're lucky if it's done lightly. So have it done rudely, abruptly, and you just, without missing a beat, with a smile on your face, you need to just go right back in and attack it all over again. So with that said, some evolution of this castle. It started off fairly modestly. So it's a little more crinkly and crumbly, like get the scalloped edges. Everything's crumbled. He wanted. Everything's crumbled.
So how many castles would you say you had to draw in this situation, or
a couple of dozen versions of this? I'm just showing you a handful.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And then subtle. So here's another one, adding some color, adding a little more of a film framing with the kids in the rowboat, with the pirates who've taken them hostage, more of the whole scene. I'm still not in full color, but this is sort of moonlight blue, all using a pencil drawing. So I'm a pencil guy. I like to draw. And so almost other concept artists are painters. They come in purely color and paint, digital paint, no drawing. I'm all about drawing.
It's cool seeing the level of detail added to each new image you're showing, Alex, like how it's kind of like evolving almost like a Pokemon.
It evolves just like a Pokemon. Exactly.
You can tell what generation what generation Chris is from.
Exactly.
I love it. It's so true. Anyway.
What's the next evolution?
There's the next evolution. Now we're getting really close to final. This is tell me if I'm getting too close to the mic here.
Oh, that's good. The detail is
you'll see this close up. So we're starting here to get into the director's head. He's starting to like what he sees, and now the kind of changes he's asking for are small, but many. So here is my notes scribbled on top of that from a phone call, a video call we had.
Cool.
It's like, change this. keep the lower structure here, keep that, but cut this off, nix the top, slice the top off, try a version with no front gate, join the mountains up back here, lots of vegetation, but less bushy, more knotted roots and craggy stuff. So, this is the kind of feedback the director's,
what's
he's
cool,
getting
though?
into it with me. He's getting into the details.
Yeah. What's cool about that is that you're close when you're getting a lot of those little tiny notes.
Yeah.
If it's like let's maybe just come back with a whole other one. But then when you're close, they're like, I'm getting noted to death, but it's like, no, like you're onto something.
Yeah, you're close.
Oh, like it's a gift. It's a gift. Great. Or as a certain director of a certain movie I worked on later would say as a signature, unimpressed. That was what he said in video dailies. He'd sit back and say, unimpressed. And that was not only, I don't like it, but it was demoralizing. It's like, you suck.
Yeah, that's a stake to the heart.
Can you give me something? What are you unimpressed with? Do you like that but hate that? Can you just give me something to go on? But no, you literally often get nada.
Everything that you've shown so far, I've been impressed with every part of it. Now, I may be like, I would want to add this here or put this there or let's see some more, but I'm impressed with all of it. So to say unimpressed, that really is just that might be just like a power play the person's trying to do to be, overly egotistical.
Much ruder term for it than power play, but let's go with that because power play is exactly what it is. Yeah. It's a bit kingly. Well, it's a bit royal.
This is a family show. So we won't get the letter A followed by a big circle or hole, or maybe could be the other way of saying it.
I had a D word, but that's okay. It's all
that
good.
Also,
power play is fun. Arrogant power play. Maybe that's the A word.
Arrogant power play.
Anyway. This evolved to be a color, sort of a color wash put over the, and this is very close to what the final shot design looked like, kinda. When I finally saw the movie.
Such a detailed.
So this went to a digital effects company that was not ILM, and that happens all the time. But I'm now going to transition into talking about another part of the castle, which was this part here, right under here, and the sort of problem-solving assist that some of the work I was doing was giving.
Is this like the drawbridge kind of?
Yeah,
gate
that's called.
area?
I learned a technical term. It's called a portcullis. That's the
portcullis.
Portcullis is what that giant gate, wrought iron thing that comes down over any archway. And in this case, the portcullis was over water. So you go.
I guess a drawbridge is the thing that flaps out, right?
That's
a drawbridge kind of folds down and lets you cross the moat.
So again, my inspiration, I always start with research and inspiration. And so this whole complex of the world underneath the castle, this big space.
Yeah.
So I was doing these early versions to not only give a sense of mood and layout, but like a visual map that they could use to plan actual action and plan the design of the sets. They hadn't built these sets yet, as far as I can remember.
Oh, wow.
So they ended up building this whole lower area, and they ended up building some version of these stairs that they're going to fight. Hook and Pan are going to have a sword fight, and it's going to take them up. This is from the script. It's going to take them up to ultimately a rooftop where they're going to fight some more. And that's going to be the big moment of dramatic end of that scene, climaxing up on the top. And so I had to get them. We all had to figure out how to visually get them from here to here. And a huge amount of planning just needs to be done for that. So this ends up being kind of a problem-solving guide, as well as a piece of quote-unquote concept. But again, this illustrates this is about much more than being a pretty piece of artwork. It's not what this purpose is. The purpose is a problem-solving thing. And you see I did a version with the open gate so we could see it, and a version with the closed gate so we could get a sense, just to remind people that there's this giant rusted, pointy with the points on the bottom.
Yeah, it's artistic and creative, but it's a blueprint for safety.
That was the word I was thinking, a blueprint.
All that, it's a blueprint.
Yeah, like a map.
Here's another pencil sketch showing another view of the same, focusing more on the upper part, where they're going to have their fight. Yeah. They're going to be fighting up here. Wendy's somewhere over here, and they stage a whole bunch of action with lightning and thunderstorm going off. It's very dramatic on this top set that they built. Meanwhile, down below you see the context. By the way, this is down below. This is where we just were. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
showing the perspectives and helping geographically
That's got
the
to be.
audience understand where you are
I
in
can
relation
see.
to other
Exactly it.
I can
parts.
see how like crucial and helpful that would be to a production designer and the people on set physically making this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, let's check the drawing again. Oh yeah, that's how he did it. He had the pathway here, and like it's just how much time, Alex, is for you spent on like those 3 drawings you just showed us? I mean, how much time is that for you to
Well,
create
at
those?
that point, I would say I'm probably busting out. This is just a couple of hours, and then I might scan it.
Wow.
I scan it in. This is a lot more detailed, so I scan
Yeah.
it in, and then I always draw and then scan and then do a lot in Photoshop. So I did the gate as a separate piece on another piece of paper and scanned that, and
Okay.
then
Interesting.
merged them here so I could turn it on and off. And then I format everything. Piece of universal advice for anyone doing concept art for any industry, any design work: label and date. Who did it, when it
Mm,
was done, version number, what the project is. That's called just a slate or a block. And label, label, label. Because this is a
okay.
basic courtesy that you're giving to everyone who's seeing this, who might never know your name. They might be halfway around the world and they're looking at this and they want to know who's responsible for this so they can call you up and say, not, hey, nice job. It's, can you explain what that is? Or could you do a version where you
Yeah.
change that?
That's the classic
It's so
battle
important.
of which. Wait, is this the most recent
Yeah.
script? Is this the most recent
Well,
version?
even on the visual effects shots as we export them, it's like version 2.0 final, version 3 final.
dot final, last one for sure, for real this time. Dot final.
No,
You
that's
know it.
really
You know
amazing
it.
because I never would have guessed that part you said about adding a piece in Photoshop and kind of layering them together. That's pretty cool too. I wouldn't have guessed that, but that's amazing.
Well, artists, it's a veil of mystery behind how artists do what they do. And a lot of the time, there's got to be practicalities and efficiencies built in for everything, right? And you're
Yeah.
always under the gun. You never have enough time. And so here's a bunch of studies. Finally, I'll show you where there's a lot of variations of this grand view of the underside.
Mm,
And I played with all kinds
wow.
of different designs of these columns. And this giant cavernous towering structure had a great old time doing it. But there were versions that had different. This one's shiny.
Oh,
Hard
that's
to see.
cool.
Wow.
With this
I like that.
dragon. At a certain point in the development, the director and the screenwriter and the set designer decided they wanted to stage a really pivotal fight between Captain Hook and Peter Pan around and on top of this dragon statue. And so what that dragon statue ended up being was something kind of sort of like this. You can
Mhm.
kind of
that's
see
cool.
that big dragon statue there carved into the columns.
That's cool.
And so
Yeah.
that was an early attempt to address that late development, that there was going to be this spiral staircase that allowed this moment to happen where Peter was hiding up on top of the head of the dragon. And if you watch the movie, you'll see him. He disguises his voice and it pretends he's Captain Hook to fool the henchmen pirates. And he's
Yeah.
hiding up there. And Captain Hook
Mm.
then somehow he's onto him and they have a great sword fight that comes, I believe, down or up. But the staircase was important again. And that came in kind of late. So I had to add that into the drawing that was there before. And I added it in by doing a separate drawing and adding it into the same drawing I'd done before. Rather than redraw the whole thing, I could just draw the parts. So here's another early version of that, which showed an early version of the dragons when they were way up high. And I did a version of this
Yeah.
without those. They're just missing all dragons because I want to give the director choices. And that's also early on, that's what it's about. Again, when you're going wide, here's a version of the basic thing you like with some extra pieces. Here it is without the extra pieces. You can choose. It's like a menu.
And you don't want anyone to imagine dragons. You
Oh,
don't.
my goodness.
You.
That kind of joke is radioactive.
Oh.
Slide some dad jokes in there.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are dad jokes. Those are just straight up
Yes.
dad jokes. And
Yes.
Travis, you get dad cred.
Yeah,
Chris, you get dad joke
yeah.
cred. Like mega.
I have no
That's awesome.
excuse.
Yeah.
I want to emphasize again, guys, make sure you're checking this episode out on YouTube because the visuals here are amazing. The stuff that Alex is showing us, and it really is painting a clear picture, metaphorically and literally, about how this art is used in the process of making anything, but right now
Yeah.
specifically a film. I'm really like getting excited about creating more visuals for our
I know,
for our
me
own
too.
stuff.
I've been like, oh, we need to do more than just our own stick figures. Although, look, if you don't have anything, do stick figures.
I do want to.
something.
I want to say one thing real
Yeah.
quick. I just saw this online. It was an original storyboard image for Knives Out, and you may have seen this. It's going around. I don't know how true it is, but it's like a stick figure supposedly done by Ryan Johnson, and it's just like this like crappy stick figure with like little stick knives pointing at the person, and then they stack it up against the actual image of Ana de Armas with all the knives, and it's hilarious when you see how janky it is. Nothing like Alex is showing us right now. But
Ryan, that's not his forte. That's
exactly.
He got the idea across by any means necessary. Napkin scribble.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that Spielberg draws or even tries to. So he has people nearby who can do that for him. And Ryan Johnson, no doubt, has those as well. But sometimes you just want to get it from your head out there, no matter how crude it might be, or how much it might.
That's what
actually. You know what, Chris? Chris, why don't you grab what you just did for the thing we're about to shoot? I'm pretty proud of him because this is pretty good looking stuff.
Yeah, I want to see it.
On the screen right now, you're seeing some storyboards that I just did for some pickup shots that we're going to get. As you can see, kind of very rudimentary compared to Alex's work in the art department here, but it is a visual that we can use to show other people and get the basic visuals across to our various department heads.
Absolutely. You've got directions, you've got arrows, you've got a basic framing. It tells a lot of story. It does. It doesn't have to, it's not about accuracy or pretty artwork or drafting skill. It's about communication value.
Some of the first ones were stick figures, but I was looking at these going, dang, dude.
No,
I'm really enjoying this as like a shading.
I tried to do some shading. Yeah, I got
You got the heel of the sole of the shoe with the heel and everything. I mean, that's not easy to do.
Yeah, like the angle was.
I put some work in with my finger sweat. Really rubbing and making the shadows and stuff.
Absolutely,
a little smudge technique.
You don't be afraid to smudge the pencil. Never.
The smudge.
My favorite technique.
You got to do the smudge. And you know what? There's a deep metaphor for you. Don't be afraid to smudge. Just
don't be afraid to smudge.
Yeah, you can apply that to a lot of things.
If you're gonna take anything,
yep,
take that.